Welcome to the Jump Off Point. I'm Sly.
And I'm Spook.
Chief is currently locked up in Asgard. We've just seen Thor Ragnarok.
Ragnar Muffin.
Do we need to really go over the plot?
Yeah, some stuff happens and there's some gods.
Okay, and there's a big fight at the end. So, Spook, what do you think of Ragnarok?
I wasn't greatly taken with the film. I was really expecting a completely, tonally different film from what the trailers had dudded me with. I thought it was going to be lighthearted. That was pretty clear, but I think they used up what good jokes they had in the trailer, and the rest of it was just really felt quite sort of try hard. I was a little bit disappointed with it. My expectations were a lot greater, maybe put it that way.
You still have expectations in movies.
Well, unfortunately, the MCU is generally pretty ironclad, I guess. So you sort of probably have a greater level of expectation with them that you're going to get entertained, which probably would be a way of saying, yeah, I got entertained.
So, director Taika Waititi, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. He made Hunt for the Wilder People. Flight of the Conchords, did a few episodes there. There's a comedy years ago, Eagle vs. Shark, all New Zealand movies, and it really had that sort of dryish New Zealand humour from their shows. That is, I didn't hate it surprisingly, but I didn't love it. Three of my problems with the Marvel universe are one, because they all interact, and I don't remember things that came before. I'm sorry. Last movie was 2 years ago or something.
No, I felt exactly the same way in terms of there were people being introduced and you think, well, am I meant to remember them? I'm really sorry, I don't remember them. Are they from the previous Thor film, or are they the chain films leading to this point?
And instead of maybe keeping us hanging for 9 minutes to see a 4-second post-credit scene, you could do a pre-credit, recap of whatever movie is going to be relevant to this one. So, I mean, and that really annoys me, because when you're spending half the movie trying to work out where you are, who's who, what happened, what references mean, and all that sort of stuff, you can't actually invest in the movie as it's unfolding. I'm sure there's fans of movies out there who just watch, before they watch Thor Ragnarok, they probably watched all 17 Marvel movies or 16 Marvel movies to get up to speed. But most of us don't actually have the time to do that. So that actually had a really big issue. All the Marvel movies are okay without being great. Like the better ones, like the original Avengers, Guardians of the Galaxy, they're good movies, but again, they're not things I would rush to rewatch, and they really lack. If you're watching a television series, and I'll use Stargate as an example because that went 10 years or whatever it was, 10 seasons. First 4 seasons, they do some really great stuff, and the arcs are great, it's compelling and all that. And then you get to the 5th season, and it's like, okay, we've seen all these characters in, peril. We've seen Earth attacked. How much more do you want me to care? Because I'm now just starting to get desensitized to this. And now we're 17 movies into the Marvel Universe, and it's really hard to care.
Yeah, it's almost a case of blockbuster burnout. There's nothing new or fresh they can really do. Yeah, probably things where they've deviated, like with Deadpool and probably Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one. They were completely off to the side, and they worked because they were so uniquely different than the standard formula that they follow. A successful formula, but it's feeling a little bit
jaded,
tired.
I mean, another thing too is, and I was thinking this, and I was thinking, I wonder how much validity this has. Is Earth wasn't threatened in this movie, and Asgard was, and I've never actually been to Asgard. Chief's there now, but I've never been there. It's very hard to feel invested in the place that, has no
impact on Earth,
yeah.
Whatever the outcome is. Unless they were protectorates, were they? Well, because it's sort of, he said he's looking out for the 9 realms. I imagine that Earth's one of those, because Thor's hanging out there. He loves the place. Chief loves Asgard, so I think it's a fair trade-off that Thor spends time on Earth while Chief's there.
Yeah.
So I guess it's maybe that was what we're supposed to infer. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I just found it hard to get invested. I know there's movies that don't have Earth as peril. Star Wars doesn't have Earth. Lord of the Rings doesn't have Earth.
Star Trek Discovery.
Star Trek Discovery. But all those, in those movies, Earth doesn't actually exist. It's, in Star Wars, there's no reference of Earth. There's nothing about Earth. So there's no anchoring there as a watcher. Whereas when you watch something, this is the 17th movie where we've seen Earth in peril all those times, and you feel, okay, now something that has no connection to us is under peril, and who cares? And they really would need something original now. They keep sort of teasing this Infinity War. They've been teasing it for about 10 movies.
Yeah.
And just the other thing is, and this is my big problem with all the Marvel movies, they're really glib. There's people cracking jokes, and you never get a sense of tension. You get, people are just making jokes. Doesn't matter what's happening. And it gets to the point where you think, well, you're not really taking this threat seriously, so why should I take it seriously? Why should I even take seriously that you're meant to be under threat when you're still cracking jokes?
They're leaving the dark, serious stuff for the DC guys.
They're leaving something for the DC guys. But you can sort of have, humour, but I think they've overarched it where it is now. They're getting recognised for, their easygoing banter and all that sort of stuff, and that's nice. It works nicely, but it also, I believe, just undermines the dramatic tension of any of these stories, because I just sort of sit there thinking, well, you're cracking a joke or someone's threatening to kill you, so, how serious can this be?
Yeah, I wonder if that's more that they're engaging the kid audience.
No, it could be, but it just, if you look at shows that have done that successfully, I mean, Buffy the Vampire Slayer had that easygoing banter, but you always felt the danger in that show. You go back to movies even like Lethal Weapon, which are comedy movies, they will still had that great drama in it. And these ones, I don't get that drama. There's things blowing up, there's people running around making threats, but I really just don't get the drama in it. It really feels like almost they're parodies of superhero movies, because you have characters and their interaction has no real depth beyond this... just this byplay, this comedic byplay at all times. And again, that's fine, but this is at all times. It really sort of gets tiring when you're constantly just having these one-liners. And as it happened with Fraggle Rock today, it really struggled because some of the jokes weren't bad.
No.
But when you're just getting them all the time, they're not all going to hit. And some were groan-worthy. And some were just, outright amateurish.
Yeah, look, I probably thought there was maybe 3 or 4... times that I laughed because the joke was genuinely funny. The rest of the time I felt like I was watching. It's the same level of sort of ad hoc, ad lib crap humour that was in the Ghostbusters remake. That just none of it just seemed to work particularly well. Whether Hemsworth's comedic timing's offbeat or what, I'm not sure. But the delivery and execution, these little glib one-liners was just not working.
But I think that's the problem there too, is because Ghostbusters is a good parallel. In the Ghostbusters, you go back to the original Ghostbusters of Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd.
Masterpiece.
Yep. Ernie Hudson and I forgot Hal Ramis. His name just escaped me there for a minute. But they're all playing quite different characters. So all their humour is quite different. Bill Murray's the outrageous one. Dan Aykroyd's the very dry one. Harold Ramis is the quirky one. They all sort of played off each other.
Played it pretty straight bad.
Yeah, but they all played it in different ways. The Ghostbusters reboot, they were all playing this sort of zany humour. All 4 of them. Didn't matter how they'd been established, they were all playing this stupid zany humour.
I don't know whether you can use the word zany and humour in the same sentence though with the Ghostbusters. Shit would be a word that springs to mind, but
they were all attempting. But they were all sort of had that. It was all very one-dimensional. And here's I think the problem with the Marvel universe. Everyone has that same sense of humour, so there's no contrast. There's no black and white. There's no serious to quirky to outrageous and all that sort of stuff. It's just this all glib humour. Everyone has these, one-liners and all that. And then you get moments which are meant to be very, very deep, like Banner exploring his friendship with Thor. And I just felt like that just felt so disingenuous. It just felt like, who's shoved this in here? How are you having this friendship moment where, Bruce Banner's also admitting, oh, look, if I turn into the Hulk again, I'm not going to come back, which should be quite a serious moment. And it doesn't have it. It just, again, played like, oh, well, who cares? We know this universe, nothing... Well, in comic strip universe, there's no depth anyway. You can bring anyone back. But, in the movie universe, there just seems no seriousness. So it totally underplays all these moments which are meant to be serious, which are meant to be moving and all that. And you look at some of the other superhero movies, and I have to sort of go back to, you know, something. Yeah, we'll go back to something like the Richard Donner Superman movies, which had some camp moments, but they also had some extremely moving moments, like when Superman gives up his powers for Lois. You know, things like that. And they worked because they treated the core material reverentially. And it's not to say Marvel's not treating their own material reverentially, but it's just too one-dimensionally trying to be funny and lighthearted and all that.
So it felt very forced, and it's too much. It detracted away from the overall viewing experience for me. It was just say something meaningful, do something important, have some sense of risk or some weight of danger, not just here's another glib one-liner and another one and another one.
And it also gets to the point where, like, you get the sense that someone, well, I don't know who wrote the screenplay, but someone wrote the screenplay. It went through some revisions, and it's gotten to filming. And someone's just sort of gone there and said, "Oh, well, look, this scene has no joke. Can we throw something in? This scene has no witticism." Even if it was like, some of the physical comedy wasn't bad, like Thor trying to break the window and the ball rebounding into him. But again, it's just constantly being played to the point that you really get desensitized to it.
Yeah, a lot of it really felt ad-libbed.
Yeah, and you look at things like look at Sopranos. Sopranos was like dark, but it was also humorous. And when that humor came out, it was really funny because again, you had the contrast.
Yeah,
you didn't expect it. It just came out and surprised you, and it was just sort of laugh out loud funny. And I mean, and that's life in general. You know, we all mostly have jobs. You know, we all have problems in life. We all have our serious moments, and every now and again there'll be something funny. Bang, And what makes it funny is because, again, contrast. And that's what the Marvel Universe doesn't have for me. They're really well done movies. They're really slickly made movies. Unfortunately, Hollywood has gotten so good at slickly making movies that, everything looks good now. So that's never going to be a complaint. But I just don't think they have the dimensionality. And that's not to sort of, I don't want someone posting in the comments, "Oh, well, would you like the DC universe?" No, that's shitfest. I'm just talking about this in isolation. Their universe, the Marvel universe, it's just too glib.
I think one of the other issues is I'm really not entirely convinced how great a standalone character Thor is as well. I enjoyed the first one because I probably wasn't expecting that much from that character. The second one I actually thought was reasonably good, but I've never gone back and watched it again. This one, I couldn't help but feel right from the point that he started up to the point where he arrived is I just want to see the Hulk. I quite like the Hulk for whatever reason. The Hulk just comes across really well in the revamped universe.
I'll go back to the Hulk
prior to the other two, but I was probably a little bit let down by him.
I'll go back to the Hulk in a minute. I think most of the Marvel characters are pretty underwhelming. What was Iron Man? It's like a C grader in his own universe.
The bulk of them were all C graders.
Ant-Man and all that. They don't really, other than Spider-Man and Hulk, they don't have the same marquee value as DC's Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman. They have immediate marquee value. And Marvel's done a good job telling the stories of these characters. It's probably because they have these lesser characters. They've strived harder to, write a good story. As far as the Hulk goes, you actually like the CGI version of him?
Yeah, I thought he looked good. No. I thought he looked good from the Avengers onwards. Yeah, the pre-2 attempts at it were pretty bad. The Hulk and the Incredible Hulk, or whatever they were called. But I liked him from the Avengers on. It's quite engaging. It's probably one character you think deserves a standalone film, but that seemingly isn't going to happen. But he's probably good secondary for cannon fodder, not cannon fodder, but destruction.
Yeah, I don't know. He just, CGI wise, he doesn't look great to me. He doesn't look horrible or anything, but he always stands out to me as being a CGI manifestation. In terms of him having a standalone movie, probably the movies you needed to do with him standalone, like about him discovering his abilities or whatever the case might be, and struggling to master them and all that sort of stuff, they've been done. And he's at a point in his existence where you're not really going to have that reflection of the character. And in the end, if you just have Hulk turning into Hulk, because he's pretty much invulnerable, it's not going to make for great storytelling in a standalone movie. You'd really sort of have to do something like where Banner goes on a quest, really like the old Bill Bixby series, or Bill Bixby telling movies with the Hulk, where he really just goes on the quest to try and undo the Hulk, try to find a cure to becoming the Hulk, gets involved in some shit, and some stuff happens, and he turns into the Hulk, and that's probably pretty much the only way to be really able to do that at this point, because all that sort of struggling with the inner beast and all that, they were done with Ed Norton and Eric Bana.
There was some good Hulk comics done. That Future Imperfect storyline I really enjoyed reading when it was out, which is the future Hulk that's dominated the planet, and the present Hulk is brought forward, and they both coexist. And there's some good dynamic inside of that, and that'd make a good story. It's sort of like that Logan film that for the Wolverine. It's that sort of darker take on everything at the end. The Planet Hulk one that this is loosely based on was a good story in itself, and it's just like this felt like they took bits out of that in reference only, and not any of the really interesting parts of that particular storyline. It was pretty much a sense of bashing the Thor and the Hulk together, and then making sure it still fits inside of the upcoming Infinity War thread. It was a film that, I don't know, it didn't really add anything to where this whole thing is going. It was like a little side deviation to go and visit the Chief on Asgard and see what's happening there, and then we come back onto the Infinity War line. It didn't really make any difference at the end of the day, whether this film was part of that or not. Yeah. Asgard was destroyed, but who cares? Unless it has an impact in the Infinity War storyline, what's the difference?
But really, who cares? Because they said Asgard's not a place.
It's a state of mind.
Yeah, so it's like, well, you destroyed it, big deal. Yeah, I agree. And this Infinity War they've been teasing anyway for quite a while. By the time we get to it, what's the next movie, the Avengers one?
Is it? I think the Infinity War is the next one.
Is an Avengers Infinity War?
Well, everyone's in it.
Okay, yeah. Well, whatever it is. It's taking so long to get here, and we've seen the Earth destroyed so many times, or nearly destroyed so many times. I don't know. Do you really care at that point?
No.
I mean, it's like they're teasing one of the big characters will get killed, and as you said, that no one dies in the comic book world. There's always ways of bringing them back, so you don't really feel that tension of like, oh well, they'll kill Tony Stark, or whoever the case might be. I imagine it is going to be Tony Stark, but
that'd be the obvious one.
Yeah, it'll
be a sacrifice.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So I mean,
it's the way a hero's got to go.
Yeah. So but it's like, who cares? I mean, I'm sure there's people out there who might care, but I've just looked at the comic book adaptations, superhero adaptations. It's like, how long can you keep pushing these things unless you're doing something different, like Logan? Logan did something where it was actually enjoyable. It was totally different to what we'd seen before. It wasn't the Earth at threat, which was actually a nice change. It was just this very personal story where they occupied Earth as the geography. It was a really good journey for Logan as a character. It was a great performance by Hugh Jackman, brilliant by Patrick Stewart as always, and you got truly involved in it. It's also like, and I was really disappointed in this, is if you look at Dark Knight Rises with Bane. Hello! If you look at Dark Knight Rises,
I'd rather not.
Where you get in Batman Begins, the League of Shadows try to destroy Gotham, and Batman saves it. In the Dark Knight, Joker really just wants to burn down Gotham, and Batman saves it. And I really thought the third movie they should just do something completely different. They should have did something like a truly detective type piece, like where Batman's trying to track down the serial killer, who's possibly the Riddler, because he would have fit that sort of profile. Had nothing to do with Gotham being under threat. But again, Gotham was under threat. And it's like, at this point, maybe you just think, maybe we should just move out of Gotham. Maybe, if I was living in Gotham, oh fuck, they tried to destroy this place twice. Although I imagine some people go, oh yeah, well what's the chance they'll do it a third time? But it just, you keep sort of going back to that same, well, who cares?
This is Gotham City that lives on the opposite side of Metropolis.
Oh yeah,
split by a river. That Gotham.
No, that's only in the Snyderverse. In the Nolanverse, there was no Superman or anything like that. I mean, but I hope you have covered that football game.
Yeah, that's all right, because in the Snyderverse, there's no Superman either.
No, well, that's a good point. Yeah, so in terms of where Marvel goes from here, they'll have the big war, and I just don't know. And I'm really, really worried that it's just going to be a total CGI fest of action.
Oh, it has to be. If you're pulling in everyone that's had their own movie or been in a movie into one story split across two films, so we're looking at maybe 4 or 5 hours of
19 hours
of conflict and CGI war and battles, and one will fall. It's culminating towards something I think is probably on the burnout trail as it is. So unless you're doing something uniquely, fantastically new, it's going to be the same old slugfest.
And this sort of, you go back to like the sense of peril in this series. You know, Thor and that sort of talk about, oh, you know, I could have been killed or whatever. It's like, you take so much punishment. At what point are you actually under any danger? The Hulk's never under any danger. I mean, they've established that. You know, Thor, it seems to take quite a bit of punishment, but keeps coming back. So, like, who threw the knife at him or the sword at him and said, you could have killed me? It's like, well, at what point do you die? And again, it's that sense of scale of, as we've complained in like a lot of modern movie making, you don't get any scale as to what damage he's doing. It just gets to this point where like you just inflict so much damage, and at some point someone says, oh yeah, I'm going to die. Or if it's a case like Star Trek where ships just get pummeled, it's like, oh yeah, well now we're taking on damage. You just get no sense of scale. Again, if you don't have no sense of scale, you have no sense of tension, because we don't know where things are escalating towards.
Yeah, it's like you were talking about the contrast before. The one gag that worked for me was where the Hulk was flinging Thor around, and Loki jumps up and gets all excited and says, that's fantastic, you know, see what it feels like. And that's good, but that's all you needed to do. But then from there on in, they're just pummeling the absolute bejesus out of each other. Nobody's bleeding or showing a bruise or anything like that. It's like this fight probably could just go on for days.
Yeah.
And there's no outcome here. There's no sense of energy lost, no I'm wearing down or anything like that. It's just pummeling for the sake of pummeling.
Yep, and again, for the sake of effects. There's too much now, I think, in filmmaking where we can do this effect, whatever that effect might be. We can do it, so how about we do it? Whereas you go back to, you know, when they were pioneering special effects, like with Star Wars and that sort of thing, they were always innovating, and they could only get away with stuff that they could actually do, even though they were always, you know, producing groundbreaking effects. They were always pushing the boundary and all that sort of stuff. But it actually made sure that they weren't just for the sake of it going, oh, let's throw this in because we can do it. You look at Jaws, Steven Spielberg, which is what, 77, 76?
Yep.
You know, the shark was this mechanical thing they built, which was meant to be in the movie. It broke down. They only used it for the end shots. And that is a brilliant story because, again, it needs to rely on story rather than effects to deliver what's going on, to deliver the peril, to build this tension, and to give you the stakes. So, I mean, as far as movie making now goes, there's just too much shit being thrown at the screen because you can throw shit at the screen. And it's fucking tiresome. It's not compelling. I think even the stuff... I think this is probably aimed at like the next generation, you know. People don't have a long attention span and all that sort of thing. But having said that, I don't think they're that compelled by it either. You know, they're not really getting immersed in this universe that they're watching. So they're on their phones, checking Facebook or whatever they might be doing. And they're also growing desensitized to all the constant bang, bang, bang action.
Yeah. There was a moment towards the end where Banner says to that girl on the ship, what's her name, the Valkyrie?
Yeah, we know who.
You know, it's time to reveal myself type of thing, and he throws himself off. And it made me think at that point, there was a really great sort of story. I can't remember which Hulk comic it was, but it talked about the fact, you know, Banner being so weary of being the Hulk that, you know, several times he tried to commit suicide, and the Hulk wouldn't let him die. He'd transform, but, you know, if he tried to put a gun to his head, the Hulk would transform and take the bullet. I thought that might have been a good moment there, that they were going to look at that and sort of say that, you know, well, you're going to die. He goes, no, he won't let me, or something like that, and throw himself off. But then they just played it for comedic effect, like he's hit the ground, which it did, because I'd already set myself up thinking, oh, they're going to do that, he's going to transform. When he hit the ground, I thought, okay, that's probably mildly funny. But he looked dead.
But they actually did that. They did that in Avengers or something. He actually referenced he put a bullet into his brain, but the Hulk couldn't let him die.
Okay.
I can't remember which movie it was.
That's how much we don't remember, or I don't remember.
I mean, I remember bits and pieces. But a special mention, since you did mention that scene, the big fucking dog. It seriously looked like a 50s, 60s horror movie, where, you know, where they got a spider and then they just enlarge it and superimpose it on the film and all that. It seriously looked terrible. I don't know whose idea. I don't know if it was meant to look terrible. Possibly it was, and that was all part of a joke. But yeah, that was not a great choice. But it was almost like actually what someone said. Hey, at the end of the movie, Thor will be fighting Hela, and
Valkyrie will be fighting Hela.
yeah, and Loki will be trying to get the fire guy, Suda. What are we going to have the Hulk do? And someone's gone, have you ever he fights a giant dog?
In the Eric Banner one, he fought some dogs.
Yeah, so it just really looked terrible as an effect. If we're sort of going to look at performances, I thought Kate Blanchett was terrific.
And she looked magnificent
Yeah,
too.
as Hela. I mean, I like Hemsworth, Chris Hemsworth playing Hemsworth. Pretty much what he does in all his roles. Yeah, Mark Ruffalo makes a good Banner. Mm-hmm. I thought Tessa Thompson struggled as the Valkyrie. I thought, I know he's getting rave reviews, but I really thought Jeff Goldblum wasn't that great.
No, he was almost non-existent.
He sort of like playing Jeff Goldblum, trying to play an eccentric character. It really was just sort of over the top, quirky, and it just didn't really communicate anything. I don't know what they wanted him to really do. If
They didn't seem to pay enough of a background for that character, though. He was what a sort of guy that hung around under a demon's anus and on a gladiator show.
I know, but it was just all stupid one-liners and jokes and things, and even when he did kill someone, it just and like that they framed that well, you know, to introduce how what a badass he's meant to be, where he killed someone with the melt stick.
Oh, that was a bad guy.
Fuck yeah. So he killed someone with the melt stick, but it didn't actually again communicate any intention because it was just done in that really glib way. So it just really sort of sucked. I mean, the one thing I'll really give this movie credit, which the DC universe didn't do with Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman's getting rave reviews, and the big problem with Wonder Woman for me is she and Captain Kirk, they're running around constantly going, we've got to stop Ares, and we never actually see Ares. We never see him pop up. We never see him do anything bad. So we don't actually ever get that juxtaposition of good guy, bad guy. This is the stakes because the bad guy's running around doing this. This actually did this well because Kate Blanchett, Hela, was running around killing people, taking over Asgard, was established as a badass. So you're going, okay, that's the person you need to stop. That's how you build a fucking villain. DC Universe, anyway. So I thought she did a great job. But again, she was given some really bad one-liners, which even she's a great actress, and she could not sell them. And I also think they actually undermined her as being a badass.
Yeah, I think it was toned down a lot. It had to be engaging enough for kids. So it's almost light-hearted, bad person.
It's pretty much Glenn Close from 101 Dalmatians. It's just sort of really ridiculous, over-the-top
someone
villain.
to boo hiss at, but someone you wouldn't be particularly scared of if they're in the room with you at the time.
Yeah, I mean, that sort of annoys me. You really need to, like Deadpool did, you really need to just sort of go, this is our audience, this is what we're going to play to. And you know what? Look, here's the reality. Maybe we won't drag kids into the cinemas, but there'll be parents who bring them anyway, and they'll see it when it comes out on DVD, Blu-ray, and then they'll want the toys. So it's still an industry that's going to sustain us. Trying to go for everyone at once, it just, I don't know, you get these movies which are just tonally all over the place. You know, one moment you have, you know, fucking Hela ripping out, spoilers, Thor's eye, which is pretty gruesome. You know, if you have kids in the room there, you wouldn't want kids to be going, oh shit, that
we don't actually see much other than...
Oh, but you know...
Suddenly he's got a black eye.
Yeah, but you know, and she makes a joke about it, but you do know what's happened there. So even if you're like a 5-year-old, you're going to know, oh shit, she ripped out his eye. And so
and what a wasted opportunity for Hemsworth to say, I'll keep an eye out for you.
Okay, so editing. Yeah. So, I just sort of wish they were a lot more focused. They treated their core material a bit more seriously.
I just want to say one thing about the ending, and I don't want to steal your thunder, but it made me think a lot about the Wonder Woman ending, where you're beaten down and you need that little pep talk to remind you that you've got this inner greatness, you're stronger and better than everybody else, and let it come forth. That was really a convoluted way of getting him out of that situation.
Yeah, and both Wonder Woman and Thor did the same thing, where they fleetingly used that power earlier. And
just to show that it's there.
Yeah, which, the foreshadow it, but by foreshadowing it. I mean, I think our audiences now have become a lot more intelligent, so when anything is introduced for foreshadowing, you sit there thinking, they've introduced that because they're going to use it later. I agree. And again, it's that sort of stupid pretty much most of these superhero movies just end because the hero decides, he is beaten down, and he decides, I'm not going to lose, and, goes deep down in himself and...
Got to search for the hero inside yourself.
Yep, and, produces willpower. Unless it's Superman, then you just break someone's neck. But, yeah, it really is... I mean, I really get annoyed at that. For me, the best superhero ending ever, to this point, is Superman 2, Richard Donner's Superman 2, because he actually outsmarts Zod and the other Kryptonians. And that, to me, was really, really clever. And that was also established that, when he was in Metropolis, he was fighting with them, and he lured them away, tried to lure them away, they wouldn't let him go away, so he flew away knowing you're just going to destroy Metropolis. And then he worked out a plan to beat him, which was great.
And there was humility with Superman at the end too, and remorsefulness when he comes and puts the roof back on the White House, or the Capitol, was it the White House?
Yes, White House.
And he apologised to the president. I'm sorry I let you down. It won't happen again.
Yeah,
it's just a great moment of humility.
Those Richard Donner Superman movies are brilliant. Anyone who sort of thinks they're not brilliant, I don't know what you enjoy.
It's not like an ending where if you send another spy satellite after me, I'm going to shove it up your ass.
Or destroy a small town with it, and then you get the female soldier there going, he's kind of hot. Just as an aside, can you imagine if at the end of the Wonder Woman movie you had a male soldier going, oh, she's kind of hot? Can you imagine the outrage that would be there?
I could imagine the outrage. Oh boy, could I imagine the outrage.
Yeah. So anyway, going back to Thor. Did you have a jump off point?
Look, I must say, in terms of jumping off, the one-liners just started to grate on me. I started to become a little bit disinterested there. The nail in the coffin for me was when the rock monster started talking. That was just the worst voice I think I've heard in TV.
It was the director.
We looked it up afterwards. It was the director. It just didn't work. He just became...
Oh man, you didn't think so, eh?
It just did not work. And so at some point, somebody must have tapped him on the shoulder and said, you've got to get someone else to do that voice. It just doesn't work.
I actually didn't mind it. I think that's what it's going to be, like this big, fearsome monster with this, stupid voice, this New Zealand accent.
You sound like a 5-year-old boy, though.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't mind. I've seen a number of his...
choice, though. That's the only thing he left out.
I've seen a number of his movies. Like, I actually like that sort of really quirky, offbeat humour. In context. I mean, superhero movies probably not the place to be displaying it all the time. So that were your jump off points, or?
Yeah, I think that was it. I mean, it's not really a harmful enough film to have a massive jump off point, but it was just a disenfranchising of what I was watching.
Yeah, okay. I'm just going to look at. I sort of like the movie. I wouldn't rush back to see it. Wouldn't want to watch it again in the next year or something again. I agree with all the stupid one-liners and all that. The one that really annoyed me and set the tone for me is at the start where Thor is hanging from the ceiling in chains and he's facing the fire demon Suta, or whatever the hell his name is. And as the demon's speaking at him, Thor's spinning on his chain and then tells him, hang on, because he's spun around, he's no longer facing the demon.
Once was enough.
And they do that twice, and it's like...
3 times, wasn't it?
Yeah, but again, that's sort of like, this is where you need to treat your core material reverentially. And then, Thor, I can't remember what the line was, he goes, I'm going to stop you because I'm a hero. And they do a close-up of his hand like he's calling for the hammer, and nothing happens. Yeah, and then Thor goes, I need to time that better. And again, this is where you need to treat your material reverentially. That's when they should have treated that. If you took the jokes out of that scene, I understand why they did the jokes. It's all sort of playing against type. But in superhero movies, you sometimes want type. And that would have been a good time, like the fucking hammer lands in his hand, he breaks loose, he starts kicking ass, and you go, wow, that is fucking awesome way to start a movie. That's a superhero. I am overwhelmed. I'm in this. And that's what I want to see. I think superhero movies have lost the art of doing it. Marvel movies have never done it because they always try and do that playing against the time. I mean, they did it repeatedly, like when Banner leaped out of the ship and, just lands on the bridge where he's expecting to turn into the Hulk and all that sort of stuff. Thor trying to throw the ball through the window and it bounces off the window and hits him in the head. So they do that repeatedly. They try not constantly playing against the time, but it's at times just not respect, revere your characters, because if you revere them, you get the audience just sitting back going, wow. And that's what you want. And again, you look at the original Richard Donner Superman movies, Tim Burton's Batman. Christopher Nolan did it in Dark Knight. I mean, how good is it in Dark Knight where Joker is telling Rachel Dawes his story and she kicks him in the crotch and he laughs. He goes, "Oh, you got a little fight in you. I like that." And then you just hear a voice from off screen. "Then you're going to love me." It's a fucking brilliant scene.
It's the wow moments.
Yeah, it's like, "Oh, that is awesome." You know, and that's what superhero movies just don't do enough of anymore. Anyway, that's my rant.
Well, I'm looking forward to when Bruce Wayne tells us he's rich.
Oh,
That'll be a wow moment.
yes,
Wow, that was
and
shit.
actually, just before we do sign off, we did see a teaser for Justice League. And yes, we're looking forward to that one. We're looking forward to it like a colonoscopy.
I like those. There's going to have to be a lot of booze involved with that one, I think.
I think there probably was when they put it
Just
together.
to dull the pain.
What's your superhero power? What do you do?
I'm rich.
Drink
rich.
beer?
I'm rich. That's all you need to know. Yeah. Look, I mean, on the scheme of in the scheme of things, it's a pretty harmless film.
Yeah.
It's like most of the DCUs. It's DCUs,
muscle.
MCUs. I'll get it right one day. During the ripping of Justice League, it'll be the MCU. They play very safe games with their characters. There's nothing.
It's really now formulaic to what they're doing. It's just paint by numbers. And it's probably, where you look at the first one, Iron Man was a bit more, or actually got a good balance of seriousness and humour. They've really erred on the side of humour now. And it's
too much.
Yeah. And just let me pose this question. What if the Justice League is a good movie?
Yeah, I don't think that's not really something you can pose. Oh, it'll be decomposed by the time we get to it.
Well,
look, yeah, you always live in hope. I live in hope. That's
I don't anymore. Zack Snyder is to the DC universe what Kryptonite is to Superman. He is killing it, and people are not doing anything about it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how much Whedon's got a stamp on this. I think it was too far gone. Snyder influence to be salvageable. They'll do their best, I'm sure.
I mean, another problem there is, even if Whedon came in midway, you're still going to get this mishmash of, Whedon.
It's like the Suicide Squad, where something shit was tried to be salvaged, and what you got on the screen was shit. Yeah. It looked like it had to be salvaged.
And that's even like if you go to the theatrical release of Superman 2, after Richard Donner was fired, he filmed 80% of it. I forgot the director's name. Lester. He came in, and I think under Writers Guild rules, he had to film 51% of it or something. So he went back and refilmed a lot of scenes, but he also used Richard Donner scenes, and you do get quite a mishmash at times where some great scenes, and you get some sort of stuff which is just like, fuck, that is just so tacky.
All the Oda stuff.
I remember there's one where there's a really bad scene where the Zod and the Kryptonians are blowing at the Metropolis people who are going to come after him, and they start.
They're probably just trying to get into their security systems.
No, but that's a cross reference. But the Kryptonians blow at him, super breath, wind, whatever, and it blows all of the Metropolis people away. But then there's this one idiot on a phone, and the phone's knocked over, and he's still trying to make the call, still trying to talk, and it's tacky as
70s slapstick.
Yeah, and and if you watch Superman 3, that's purely Lester, so you see what sort of humour he could bring to that universe. Anyway, so I think that's it from us.
Yep, and from the Chief. Chief sends his best from Asgard. He'll be back over the Rainbow Bridge for Justice League.
If I was the Chief, I'd hope to stay in Asgard. So thanks for joining us.
All right, thanks. See ya.